Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our third webinar and our last webinar of the series. We're just going to take it slowly just to allow some more people to sign in. But we just wanted to start the webinar to let you know that it is all happening. We've got people coming in. So again, thank you very much for coming to our third webinar. Appreciate taking time out in your morning. As mentioned, this is the last webinar of the series, and I will be talking a bit more later on about what happens after this webinar. As usual, please know that we have an interpretation function. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a globe, a round circle shape with interpretation on it. If you click this and then click mute original audio, you can then choose the language that you would like to hear this in. So remember, if you want to hear this in Amharic, please click the interpretation function. We will also be having Q&A and questions throughout this webinar. So as usual, please remember to put any questions in the Q&A box, and we will try and get them, we'll try and answer them throughout this webinar. We will be recording this webinar as we have with the first two, and we'll be sending them to you via email. And this is also now live on Facebook, so you can join our Facebook group and you can watch webinar 1, 2, and 3 in the Facebook group. They are all saved in the group for you to watch. For this webinar, we have 3 special guests with us. We have 3 past IEP ambassadors who will be talking today and presenting their case studies and what they have been able to do with the Positive Peace framework within the region. We have Daniel and Absalom, both from Ethiopia, and then we have Pietro with us here from Nigeria. So thank you to the 3 of you. We will be hearing from them later in this webinar. So please, when they are speaking, if you have any questions for them, put it in the Q&A box, because they will be answering any questions you have for them. So today you'll also be hearing from Trust again, our Zimbabwe office in Southern Africa. They will be giving an update and an overview of what the office does and some of the projects that they've been working on in the region. I think I'm just looking at how many people have signed on. So again, thank you for joining us. Just a quick reminder, we have the interpretation function available, and we also have the Q&A function available to please use throughout. I think I will now hand over to Charlie to do the first introduction of this webinar.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the third webinar. And this third webinar ends the webinar phase of this program. And after the webinar phase, we'll be moving into the project phase. And Kira will talk a little bit more about that further on. But really, the purpose of this webinar, today's webinar, which is titled Activating Positive Peace, is really about giving you ideas about what you can embark on, what you can do to activate positive peace as part of the project phase of this program. So it really is about giving you ideas about how you can apply the learning. And we've got a really diverse group of people that have joined us. We have a number of Rotarians, a number of educators, students, people working in development work, people working in policy work, people working in community work, a range of creative people across a number of mediums, entrepreneurs and business folk and people engaged in projects. So we really want you today to think about how you can take this learning, how you can take this positive peace framework and incorporate it into what you do. So today's webinar is really about spiking those ideas. And we just want to reinforce that what you embark on really needs to be realistic and it needs to be within your capacity and influence. So it's no point setting up to fail by dreaming or planning a project that's beyond capacity or influence. So I really want you to think about what it is you can do within your sphere of influence and capacity. So as Kira mentioned, we're going to hear from a number of speakers today who are our IEP ambassadors to try and provoke those ideas. And the ideas may not come to you today. Maybe you'll have to return to some of these webinars, think on what it is that how you would like to activate with positive peace. So don't be too stressed if the ideas don't come to you today. They will come. As I said, it may take some time and it may take you to re-engage with some of the materials. As always, I'd just like to introduce who's working to put this this webinar together today. You've heard from, I'm Charlie Allen, and I'm the Director of Partnerships here at the Institute for Economics and Peace. You've heard from Kira Mitchell today, who's emceeing. Also in the room is Alistair Function and Patricia Garcia, who are moderating this event. Joining us from our Zimbabwe office are Trust and Milton, and you'll hear from Trust and Milton soon. And also, as Kira mentioned, we're delighted to have the assistance of some IEP ambassadors today. Daniel Gabina from Australia, Absalom Sampson from Ethiopia, and Pietro Uzochukwu from Nigeria. So we're looking forward to hearing from our IEP ambassadors. Also, I'd just like to shout out for our interpreter, Benyam Zwadi. Benyam, as many of you will know, is simultaneously interpreting this webinar into Amharic. If you have just joined and wish to listen to this webinar in Amharic, encourage you to click on the interpretation button, turn off mute original sound, I should say, and then select Amharic. And I really have to thank Benyam. He's been very dedicated to this project in building an understanding about the material and providing quality and accurate interpretation. So thank you to Benyam. I'd also like to thank our project partners, the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa West have been a significant partner in this project and certainly done a lot of work to get this project up and running. Similarly, the Rotary Club of Entoto, we thank you for your participation and work in getting this program up and running. The Ethiopian Peace and Reconciliation Commission, we also thank you for your partnership in this project. And I do apologise, I've incorrectly acknowledged the Ethiopian Peace and Reconciliation Commission in the past two webinars, but we have certainly thank you for your role in connecting us with a lot of the people who have joined this webinar series. Okay, so we shall move on, and just recapping on a couple of things. I said that you'll probably get sick of me saying this, but it is really to have it's important to have a good understanding of these two definitions of peace. First of all, that negative definition being the absence of violence, or the absence of fear of violence. That negative definition is the definition that we use to build the Global Peace Index. And you'll remember we talked about the Global Peace Index back in our first webinar. And I've explained that Global Peace Index as it being about counting the broken bits in countries and comparing countries based on those broken bits, if you like. So it's looking at peace from a negative perspective. Last week, you were introduced to the Positive Peace Index, and that is based on that definition being the attitudes, the institutions and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. So it is really about looking at the capacity for a country or a community to be peaceful. And you'll remember last week, when we talked about positive peace, we broke it down into those three domains of attitudes, institutions and structures. And you remember our researcher, Paulo Pinto, last week spent a bit of time talking about those three domains and how those domains are trending across the globe and specifically within Ethiopia. We also broke it down further and looked at the positive peace framework. And we talked to these 8 pillars, the 8 pillars of positive peace as the conditions that we need happening within a social system for a social system be functioning well and functioning peacefully. We build an understanding that positive peace is associated with higher per capita income. So it creates better economic outcomes for communities and countries. It's associated with stronger resilience, better ability, better capacity to be prepared, to be able to respond and be able to recover from a shock. Higher positive peace countries have better environmental outcomes. You may recall we looked at the economic threat register and how some countries may be facing threats but are better able to deal with those threats. Higher levels of positive peace have higher countries with higher positive peace have higher measures of well-being across a range of indicators, including social cohesion. And also higher positive peace countries perform better against development goals. They perform better against the Millennial Development Goals and are performing better against the Sustainable Development Goals. Last week, we touched on this idea of systems thinking, and we really encourage you to build an understanding of this idea of systems. And we encouraged you in last week's webinar to shift away from that idea of cause and effect, that linear thinking, which is often the thinking that we've been brought up with, grown up with, been educated in this idea of a cause having a specific effect. What Paulo unpicked last week is that systems are far more complex. And this work of building more peaceful communities is really about what it is that we can do as an individual, or what we can do as a group of individuals, or what we can do as an organisation to look to nudge that system, incrementally move that system to be more peaceful. And we looked at that by thinking of what it is we can do against those 8 pillars of positive peace to shift the social system to be more peaceful. We talked about this idea of virtuous cycle, ambitious cycle. We see countries and communities that are in a vicious cycle where there's little capacity to do with conflict and violence, and that spending circle on trying to contain violence, and it being a vicious cycle, because the more that we're focusing on the violence, the more difficult it is to build a stronger positive peace community. And we talked about nudging a system until a community or a country falls into a virtuous cycle, where the capacity is such that we're able to direct more funding towards pursuits that continue to build a peaceful and functioning society, such as education and health and economic development. So we also talked about the points of difference, looking at building the peace in a community or country, the points of difference of doing it through a positive peace lens. Generally, peace building starts with looking at the conflict and a conflict analysis and building understanding of what's leading to the conflict. This positive peace approach doesn't start with the conflict. It starts with, well, what are the strengths within the social system and how can I help to increase those strengths within a social system? The positive peace approach is self-determined, meaning the people that are affected are the people who are involved in the solutions. As I mentioned, it's a strengths-based approach. It's focusing on building strengths and not focusing on weaknesses. It's not a stop-start approach. It's about how can we nudge a system to be more peaceful. It is empirically based. So it's not what the Institute for Economics and Peace think. It's not what somebody else thinks. It's not built on a specific value set. It is based on what we have learned from studying the most peaceful communities, the most peaceful countries on the globe. So it's empirically based, which is an important point of difference. And as I've mentioned, it's a systems approach. It's not looking at cause and effect, it's thinking about that whole social system. We know that just looking at it, cause and effect and stop-start thinking is not necessarily successful when trying to build stronger communities. And lastly, it's about incrementally shifting systems, as I've mentioned a couple of times. Not about, okay, we're going to stop doing this thing. It's no, how do we nudge that system? How do we shift it slowly to be more peaceful so that peacefulness is sustainable? So there's a number of ways that you can activate around positive peace. And as I said, we're very shortly going to hear from some of our IEP ambassadors who have developed their own ways to activate positive peace in their own context. So it's important that we're not prescriptive about what you do, because you know your community, you know your country, you know your peers, you know your family, your immediate neighbours. You have deeper understanding of your community. So it's important that you develop what you feel that you can do, either, as I said, individually, as a group, or as an organisation. So you might think about a positive peace program, I do have an example of a positive peace program based in Philippines. If we have time, we'll talk about that today. But that's looking at how to shift a whole community, a whole district to be more peaceful, which is an approach that a peace builder by the name of Irene Santiago took in the district of Pacobato in Philippines. You may choose to create influence by an event. It could be a conference, symposium, participating in a forum. You might choose to launch an IEP product, and many of our IEP ambassadors do just this. They'll look to do a launch event for the Global Peace Index or the Positive Peace Report. You may simply get your colleagues around the lunch table during lunchtime and do a professional development session for your colleagues in a lunchtime session. You may choose to do a project, or you may already be doing a project and look to redesign that project, rethink that project through the positive peace pillars. Or you may have a project in mind and use those positive peace pillars as to inform your project design. And you saw an example of that last week with Jude Kakuba in Uganda, and how he redesigned his literacy project through those pillars of positive peace. You may already be an educator and may look to draw positive peace into your education programs. You may choose to deepen your research by including positive peace or draw positive peace in a professional development program that you're involved in. You may look to explore online options to activate around positive peace. Okay, I'll shift back to Kira now. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering, what do we do now? What is going to happen after this third webinar? So there are two main goals or two main objectives that we want all our ambassadors to do and that you have to complete in order to get your certificate. So the first one is an online test. So this will be emailed to you next week. We will email it to you along with the recording, as we have been every week of the webinars. So this test will be we'll have questions from webinars 1, 2, and 3. So if you need to re-watch or catch up to the webinars before doing the test, please do so, because the test will be asking questions about the first 3 webinars. And you need to pass this test to move on to the next phase to get your certificate. But we will be sending you an email with the link to this test. And if you fail, we will let you know so that you can try and redo it. You will get a deadline, right? On this screen here, we have the deadline of March 12th for you to have completed the online test. Potentially, we will extend this deadline depending on when we send it out to you, but the deadline will be in the email. So all that information will be in the email. We will post it on the Facebook group, and we will also make sure that it's shared in the Telegram group that I know a lot of you are in. Once you have finished this test, you move on to the main objective of this program and what Charlie was just speaking about, and that is the project or presentation. So every ambassador to receive a certificate needs to complete a project or presentation that incorporates and involves the Positive Peace Framework, or what you have learned in these webinars, such as using our data, our GPI data. As Charlie has mentioned, that can be as big as a project if that is within your capabilities, or it can be as simple as a presentation. If you're in a Rotary club, for example, you could do a presentation to your fellow Rotarians in a club. You could do a presentation to your work friends or your community or your family. You have a lot of freedom in what you do. Also, we understand at the moment with COVID, doing physical projects can be difficult. And so I know that a lot of people are looking online for an online platform to do these projects. And you will actually hear of 2 examples today of how they use the Positive Peace Framework in an online project. The only, I guess, criteria that your project has to have is that it incorporates the Positive Peace Framework or some of our research from the reports. Now, again, there will be more information about this in the email we send out. We will be giving you some resources. We will be giving you some case studies. will give you some all the webinar PowerPoints, so you have all of those reports for you. And the way that you prove or show that you have done this project is you will get a online link, and it will be a submission form. So this is a project completion or project submission form. And you will get this ahead of time, but please don't fill this out and submit it until after you have finished your project. And that is how we know that you have done your project. Now, you have time to do this project. We usually give about 8 weeks, but that can also be extended depending. But you have about 8 weeks to think about and network with your fellow participants on this webinar to come up with a project and then complete the project. But again, in the email we send out, we will specify the deadline that we need to have the project back, and we will also send you the link to that. So if there are any questions about this, please put them in the Q&A box. But also we have a dedicated email address for you. So if you would like to email us any questions about the project, you can do that. And remember, if you already have if you're writing a report or you're already doing a project for, say, university or for work, you can use what you're already doing as your project, but you need to show how you have incorporated the framework, the Positive Peace Framework, or our research. So you do need to update it or adapt it a bit to incorporate that. So thank you for some questions coming through. Deborah has asked, does it have to be an individual project or can it be a group project? That is completely up to you. You can do it by yourself, or you can try and network through the Facebook group if you want, or if you know someone in your community who you would like to do the project with, then that is completely okay. If you do the project together, you both submit the project through the project submission form, and you will both receive credit for that. Once you have submitted your projects, please know that it does take us some time to go through all the projects. So it might be 3 or 4 weeks before you receive your certificate. But everyone who has participated in all 3 webinars, who does the online quiz and then submits their project, you will receive a certificate or a letter of completion from the Institute saying congratulations and that you are officially an IEP ambassador. So thank you for that. I'll just check if there are any more questions for that. So just give me a moment while I read the Q&A box. So we've got a question here from Daniel. Is there a sample project? So we will be sharing examples of projects that you can do. You'll be hearing from 3 examples today, but when we send you information via email next week, we will also send you more examples and more information so that you can see what other people have done and get inspiration. Give me one moment. Okay. So thank you for all your questions. In the essence of time, I think we're now going to move on to Trust and the Zimbabwe office to give us a bit of a regional update on the office and some of the projects that they have been working on. So I'll now hand over to Trust or Milton from the office.
Can Kira, I'm not sure if you can get me clearly. I think I'll be taking this bit of the presentation on behalf of the Zimbabwe office. Fantastic. So welcome to all our ambassadors and the rest of the panelists. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I wish you the best of luck with your presentations and your projects when you finally embark with them. So let me just in a very short space of time, just go through what we do as the Southern Africa office of the IEP. Mostly what we're engaged in is popularizing positive peace. And we do this through presentations and trainings as much as we possibly can. So we engage a variety of institutions. Now, of course, because of COVID-19, we've gone more and more online. But when we can, and in accordance with guidelines, we do physical trainings as well. So this includes women's groups, youth groups. For example, there's what's called the Institute of Directors locally, which is the CEOs and board members from different companies and institutions. We have also approached them and done positive peace training, which can range from simply listing the 8 pillars of positive peace and saying, here are the 8 pillars, right up to more detailed explanations of each pillar and how it interacts with the work that they do. This is obviously affected by how much time we have available and who is in the audience. Now, we also try and make sure that we relate positive peace as much as possible to current events and demonstrate its relevance. So you'd find that when, for example, in Zimbabwe, there was a climatic event and a lot of flooding, we responded to a lot of questions and queries relating to how positive peace improves resilience, how positive peace improves environmental outcomes, and so forth. Now, we also, Shokera mentioned very briefly on this, we also do our report launches and discussion events. So with the Global Peace Index, with the Ecological Threat Register, with the Economic Value of Peace reports, the Positive Peace Report, we literally just hold events. We invite as many people as we can, or we are invited by other people, and we go through the data that's laid out in the report. And then again, if it's specific to a sector, we try and demonstrate the relevance of the data and the data points that are most relevant to them. If it's a country, we also focus on the data relevant to that country. In the region, we have engaged COMESA, we have engaged the African Union PSD. We're looking to do regional peace indexes, or at least a report that measures and assesses the level of peace and positive peace in the different regions. Of course, given the nature of the African Union as a region, might not adapt the ranking from number 1 to the last one to avoid that sort of sensitivity, but we will simply just show where the risks are, where the strengths are, and demonstrate where the opportunities for moving forward are. We've also done what's called strategy testing for a few organizations, for example, the Peace Building Network of Zimbabwe and Center for Conflict Management, where they have come with their reports and said, this is what we've worked on in the past, and this is how we would like to respond to various scenarios or needs in the communities in the future. And then they allow us to put a positive peace lens on it, and we point out, for example, what the data says. We point out, for example, what the 8 pillars of positive could unlock for them as they move forward. We also do a lot of engagement with government, and this is fundamentally important for the IEP across the region. So we engage from as high level as the president himself, right down to local level. So this is councillors, this is chiefs, this is local organizing committees, even at regional levels. We try as much as possible to engage government. And in this kind of approach, we don't always have data that's positive looking or that's attractive, but the data is always factual, it's always true, and it always points to opportunities for improvement, opportunities where an intervention or an investment could be made. And then this is where it becomes very, very useful to engage with government. We also do memorandum of understanding with various organizations. So it's universities, it's youth groups, it's governments, it's funding partners like the UN, local organizations supported by funding partners. So we really try and develop partnerships that bring an impact in different spheres. We're working a lot as well with Rotary. This event is a testament to that, and in a few other countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and we're expanding as well. We are also doing a lot of work with universities where we engage different departments, different faculties in the universities to just offer our data to the university students and offer positive peace training as well, just to make sure that we approach this critical sphere of knowledge generation, this critical sphere of idea generation, and make sure that we get the students understanding that their work, their field of study is highly relevant to peace in their community. So a lot of universities have peace and governance programs, and we do focus on those, but we're also trying to make sure that we bring in other fields of the humanities, the economic students, we bring in even hardcore sciences, whether it's medicine, whether it's biochemistry, whether it's engineering, just to make sure that they also have an understanding of the positive peace spin on the work they do. So I think without going on and on, that's a brief overview of what we do as the Zimbabwe office, and would be happy to take questions if anyone has any. Thank you. Back to you, Kira.
Thank you very much, Milton. Much appreciated. We will try and do a couple of questions. I think we still have quite a couple of questions about the project, which I know is on everyone's mind, but then we will move on to our ambassadors, because we want to make sure that all three ambassadors get enough time. But I've got a couple of people asking about language and what language they can do their project in. Now, of course, if you're doing a presentation or talking, absolutely you can do that in any language that you choose. When it comes to written, say it's a written project, if it's a report or a paper, we understand that for a lot of people that won't be in English. We just ask that when you submit your project through the submission form, to please fill that out in English. And if you are submitting a written piece in Amharic, that you give an overview in English for us to read. So your actual project can be in any language, but the actual submission to us needs to be in English, please. And just a brief overview or outline of your project and how it links to the Positive Peace Framework. That is very important. And we will, if we have any follow-up questions, we will get back to you. So thank you very much for those questions. In the interest of time, I think we will move on now to our first IEP ambassador, Daniel Gabina, and I will now hand over to him to give a brief introduction to him and who he is, and then about his project and what he is currently working on.
Salam, salam. How are you? So my name is Daniel Gobena. Just a little background to who I am. I moved to New Zealand when I was very young. And then from there, I studied, went to university there. And then from there, I came to Australia and met my wife here. And currently, I've got 2 kids. So we're living here in Sydney with our family. And I want to say thank you to, first of all, AIP for giving me the opportunity to share about the projects that I've done and I'm currently doing, and also for the great input in terms of encouraging me along the way. So I just want to share here about with with the podcast I'm doing. So when I thought about it hard, how I can contribute to the current Ethiopian situation, one of the things that came to mind is that in terms of my studies, I did engineering and I worked as an engineer in New Zealand and here a bit. So I appreciate system thinking, and also currently working as a social worker as well, gave me that opportunity to work with people, to listen to people, to understand their concern. I also know that I'm not able to solve people's problem all the time, but together if we work, that we could get a result better than if we can do it by ourselves. And I appreciate that, and also my desire to contribute into the public discourse or the public conversation, and with this I started a podcast called Zoe Media, and Zoe Media, I will explain a little bit more. But one of the things that got me concerned is not only what's happening in Ethiopia, but just all over the world, including Australia, where we're living, is the freedom of conscience or the freedom of speech shrinking, as we have more tools to communicate. So that was a bit of a concern. So I decided to start this. Called Truth in the Public Square. And one of the things, as you can see in this image, that one of the big issue in Ethiopia we have is the different, ethnic groups having different camps and thinking, and pulling those, strings apart. But also we need to know that if we work together, we can build something beautiful. And also everyone, the fibers that has come from each and every group has contributed to building what is beautiful in Ethiopia, and also in what is shameful. So every nation has its beautiful history and also what we be ashamed of. So here, the idea is that let us, if we share truth and love, that we'll be able to build something beautiful. And I think that AIP have given me the tools in terms of understanding that systematically what are those pillars that we should look at then if we're thinking of building a nation and ensuring sustainability. So, and the other thing is that really got me involved in this podcast is because I'm also a youth leader at church. So that means that I have a biblical conviction. And what does that mean? That means that then how can I contribute as a whole person, not as a person of integrity, as a whole? How do I make sure that I be sharing my conviction wherever I go and see through that understanding as well? So that's why I thought, well, and as a social worker, and also as a Christian, how do I contribute to the public square? So just go quickly. I think one of the things, at least the starting place should be, my understanding, is a simple starting place should be the truth. And that truth, what we share in common, at least in this case, probably is that one thing called imago Dei. Is a Latin word for image of God. It's understanding that every human being, regardless of what ethnic group they belong to or what country, what citizen, people with disability, young, old, It doesn't matter, men, women, they are made in image of God. And if we acknowledge that, then that's where the inherent dignity, which the Declaration of Human Rights draws from. It says everyone is has that dignity. And where does that come from? My understanding is that it comes from that made an image of God. That's one truth. And the other truth is that we are all Ethiopians, so we share that in common. Then at least if we start from there with giving dignity to each one, to each other, and then saying that we are Ethiopians, then how do we work out all the other things that that are complicated? So here I started Zoe Media. Zoe Media, the vision is to see truth, honoring, and a more just society in Ethiopia. The motto is truth made public. So it's about engaging that truth in public square. And also the mission is to build human capital. So one of the things that being made an image of God is actually to see that, to be able to speak, to share truth. So the big picture from my side, how I see it, is that we are in a fallen state. So therefore, how do we make sure that we work together to make a redemption, to make something beautiful, something peaceful as AIP, we put it down. So then at the heart of it is a disharmony of relationship. So that disharmony of relationship is disharmony spiritually, disharmony with creation. So we talk about destroying environments, disharmony with each other, with our neighbors, disharmony with ourselves, not feeling comfortable, not feeling at peace with ourselves. So it shows that disharmony happening. And that's what happens. I mean, the original intention is to be all in harmony, but when it is in disharmony, everything breaks down. The economic system, social system, the religious system, the political system seems to break apart. So now, for me, then that's where IIP helps me really to understand and say, okay, then how do we actually find a tool that helps us to build this thing up? So what I shared before with you is more of like a philosophical thinking, but in practical thinking, then how do you actually start doing something about it? And this where AIP puts those 8 pillars in place to help us understand, number one, scientifically as a data collected, so that we can see and measure and improve. And also on the other side, a frame of thinking, so then we can put it in priority where to focus on. So I think in conclusion for me is one of the great thing, one of the challenge we have in the Ethiopian public square is the different camps making their place and claiming their truth, and not willing to talk to the other one, and hostile to the other group. What we need to do is to actually come together and say that we all contribute to the beauty and the shame of the country. And if we speak in the truth in love, we'll be able to come to a common ground. One of the show I actually did a podcast was with Patricia Garcia from AIP, and we talked about the crisis in Ethiopia we've got, and also we talked about how to have a civil dialogue on social media, because social media is a great tool. It's a virtual public square, but if we don't use it wisely, then it can be a dangerous thing. So I'll stop here. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to address it.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Now, I think just in the interest of time, so we get through everyone, we will go through every ambassador's presentation first, and then at the end, if we have time, we will take some questions. So thank you very much, Daniel. And now I would like to give the webinar to Absalom to talk about his project.
ሄሎ እንደምን አደራችሁ የሀገሬ ሰዎች። ስሜ አቤሰሎም እንግዲህ ፕሬዘንቴሽን የሚሆነው በእንግሊዝኛ ነው የሚሆነው፣ ግን ራሴ እንዳስታውቅ እንዲሰጠኝ ፈልጋለሁኝ። ዌቢናር ነው ሼር ማድረጋችሁ ኮንቴንት። መጀመሪያ አይፒን እጅግ አድርጌ ማመስገን እፈልጋለሁ። በተጨማሪም ደግሞ የፕሮግራም ሲዘጋጅ አብረውኝ ለነበሩት ለሮተሪ ክለብ አባላቶች So now on, I keep speaking in English. So since I returned back to Ethiopia 2017, I started engaging with different institutions, like those of them that are merely working with peace. So one of the institutions that I engage with is Peace First. Peace First is a Harvard-based initiative. This institution gave me a chance to work with different injustice, especially which has happened in high schools and in universities. So as a senior digital mentor, I give them different experience and exposures, the skills that I know very well. So after that, I joined and I got a chance to be a fellow at Global People Summit 2018, which is a United Nations Security Council support or UN support program. So after that, I think I get a chance to even to be part of IEP as an ambassador. So today I will present you my idea, or the reason why I come up with Shingo Global. Shingo is an Amharic term. As an Amharic term, Shingo means the council. So since I travel in so many parts of the world and attend different conferences, I saw many our forefathers and African leaders, they try to come up with a solution. And I say, why don't I bring such an issue to an African context, to an Ethiopian perspective? So with that, I come up with Shingo Global theory and type. The big reason why I create this Shingo Global is with the mission to give a framework for youth, especially those who doesn't have an opportunity to express their ideas. So I create a platform like through social medias. So those social media platforms help them to share their ideas and deliver their content. And also I work with different institutions to implement projects. And also Shingo Global with its program like Shingo Panel. We discuss on issues like policy briefing. Most issues matter, most Africa, in particular to Ethiopia and to the Horn. So I address also challenge through different mediums. Like I have my own podcast, I have my own YouTube channel, but that YouTube channel is working closely with my media partner at Disabi. It's all about, it seems like my personal initiative, but since I started, there's a lot of people join me, and a lot of institutions are working closely with me. So with this, I think at this moment in time, Shingo Global seems like well known in different think tank platforms. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to provoke citizens of Africa, in particular to Ethiopia, to imagine and reimagine the situation around them. And also at the end goal, we want to build a better continent and a country. So in order to that, peace is the most important pillar. Shingo Global mainly focused on peace and security, diplomacy, trade, environment, and law. Anyone who are very much interested to engage with us, you are most welcome. So let me share some of the activities that I engage with through my podcast. I even discuss the issue of peace, positive peace. I also discuss about what's Africa Peace and Security really mean, what's going on, especially when it comes to drought, climate resilience. We also invited different scholars from different sectors, especially from the peace, from governance side, to our podcast. You will find our podcast on podcast screen. So with that, I think we reached to so many people. And also as a peace and security blogger, I blog in different issues. You will find my blogs in different outlets. I also have my own WordPress. I put some of them on that. You can read them. I think I have more than 15 content, which mainly focused on different issues, but mainly on peace. Also, this is some of the videos. You will find them on YouTube with my media partner, Adizevi. So Adizevi, I would like to acknowledge and give them good credit to trust on me and give me the opportunity to share and to invite seasoned guests to the panel, and we discuss on different issues from starting from peace to trade. And also, also attend different seminars and conferences to speak about the value of peace. And this some of them picture that you see on your screen. Last time I was attending also at Dana Forum, and also I was engaged on different platforms on Zoom meetings, and also I try to sell myself and also to sell peace in the meantime, to bring a sustainable peace not only in Ethiopia and beyond. Currently, I'm engaged in National Voluntary Community Service Program. If you heard about it, more than 11,000 Ethiopian youth are staying in different universities, and the government engaged them to learn about what community service really means. As a Rotarian, I give them different contents. I share them what I've been through, and also peace and conflict resolution. Last week, I done this with the help of protractors. So with all this, I think I try to bring peace in Ethiopia and beyond. This is who I am. But lastly, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you for offering me this opportunity. If you have any questions, you are most welcome. Back to you, Kira.
Thank you very much, Absalom. That was great. And please feel free. You talked about a lot of different platforms there. So if you want to link, like your YouTube channel, if you want to link any of those in the chat, please do so. Also, Daniel, if you want to link any of your podcasts or anything for the ambassadors, our participants today, please link them in the chat so everyone can have a look at them. Now, last but not least, I'd like to hand over to Pietro to talk about what he is currently doing in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hi, yes, you're
Okay.
ready to go.
Okay. Good morning over here. I really enjoyed the presentation so far. My name is Pietro Uzochukwu. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a past president of the Rotary Club of Abuja, Wuse 2, District 9125, Nigeria. I'm a Paul Harris Fellow. I'm a member of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. So in a nutshell, I would say I'm a passionate Rotarian. And today I would be discussing on how to activate positive peace using the Rotary platform. Okay. Is my screen visible now?
Yep, we can see it now.
Okay. Excellent. Now, I took the ambassador program of IEP last year, and it really got me thinking, and I've got some initiatives in regards to how to activate positive peace in Nigeria. The main thing is using Rotary Reach. Now, coming to Nigeria, Nigeria has 37 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. I gave a brief analogy of how Rotary came to play here from 1905, Rotary in Africa 1921, and then Rotary coming into Nigeria in 1961. Rotary structures in Nigeria currently, this is a very conservative figure. Rotary clubs For the whole 37 states, I pegged it at 500. Not to forget that Rotary has 4 districts in Nigeria. And each district, like District 9125, where I belong, we have over 120 Rotary clubs. Coming to the Rotary clubs spread across the 37 states, I peg it at 8,500. These are conservative figures. Inter clubs, for those who are not Rotarians, Rotary clubs are the youth arm of Rotary. Our Rotary Club is for the professionals, the adults, the advanced people. Rotary Club are for youths 18 to 30 years. The Interact Club are for secondary school students, the younger adults, the teenagers. Then we have Rotary Community Clubs, which are also pegged at 1,500. Rotary Community Clubs are clubs that we create in communities where we engage in service projects or carry out activities. These are clubs, these are groups that we put together in local communities where we go for grassroots initiatives, and then we establish them so that we have a contact person in that local community. So I also pegged this at 1,500, but it goes way more than that. Now coming to Rotary alumni includes both those that have participated in the Rotary Peace Training Center program, Rotary Friendship Exchange. Rotary has so many activities going on, and once you participate in these activities, we consider you an associate of Rotary, an alumni of Rotary. So looking at 1961 to 2021, you would agree with me that having 2,000 alumni in Nigeria, it's really a very conservative figure. But that's what I'm working with basically, so as to give us a grasp of how deep Rotary is, of how large the number is. Now, this total figure comes up to 6,500 Rotary structures. Now, I'm not talking about individual Rotarians or these individuals. I'm talking about the structures themselves. All right. The ambassadorial program I took last year talked more on positive peace. And this got me thinking about how historically peacefulness in Nigeria, it has really eluded us over here, from the civil war in the early 60s to the post-COVID era like we have now. You look at the NSAS issue, you look at other agitations, so many conflicts here and there, and then it all boils down to weak structures. Now, looking at the 8 pillars of peace, it was quite easy to relate with the weakness of these pillars in Nigeria. So I had to fashion a project, a holistic national project, which I tagged Activating Positive Peace in Nigeria. Now, the concept of this whole notion is to build peace infrastructures, to have grassroots orientation, to set up early warning signs using Rotary platform. Now, the idea is to utilize Rotary platform to the later, talking about these 6,500 structures that I've mentioned earlier, from the community club to the Rotary club to the Interact club to the Rotary club to the alumni, spread across every state in Nigeria, every nook and cranny in Nigeria. So the objective is to identify spearheads in those structures and use them to activate positive peace. Now, the activation of positive peace in Nigeria has already kickstarted, and the project goal is to activate positive peace using my organization and engaging with Rotary platform and Rotary associates. The objectives of this program is to build peaceful relationships among all ages and ethnic groups, provide practical tools for peaceful living, including skills, because we'll also be establishing or equipping vocational centers. And we intend that each of those vocational centers will set up in every local government will not just train youths and community members in that location on vocational training alone. No, we will also use that platform to train them on peacefulness, on how to tolerate their neighbors, on how to coexist with their neighbors. So side by side, as they are learning any vocation of their choice, be it tailoring, be it fabric making, shoe making, leather works, or anything, they are also learning peace building. Also, we intend to have peace clubs. We will tend to have early warning sign mechanisms using those grassroots infrastructures to actually keep an eye in the grassroots communities. With the early warning sign mechanism which we are setting up, we will be partnering with some state institutions, the police and what have you. In every state also, every 37 states, we intend to leave a monument, a peace pillar, One is currently ongoing in the Federal Capital Territory. It's really gigantic. Very soon it shall be commissioned and unveiled. Coming to the executed project so far, the initiative for activating positive peace in Nigeria was flagged off in December 2020. And I could tell you that we've executed lots of projects already. You know, that's the advantage we Rotarians have. Being a past president, I did 62 projects in a Rotary year. So we're actually project driven. So Rotarians don't really have problem fashioning a project or have problem looking for resources. We know how to create a project, we know how to identify opportunities and work with it. So when it comes to activating positive peace in Nigeria, we did the flag off in December, and at this event it was unveiled the objective of the whole activation of positive peace, what we intend to achieve was made known. The presentation of the Global Peace Index and the national goal to activate positive peace in Nigeria was also unveiled. Going forward, we, at the RILA event in January, we developed a handbook. This handbook basically contains the ideology of Institute for Economics and Peace, domesticating it to the Nigerian environment. This is very important. The activation of positive peace is working with IEP ideology, but then it's domesticated. You identify the weak pillars you want to strengthen, and you let the people know, okay, if we do this, this is what we are going to achieve. And the handbook was created by myself, sponsored by the Rotary Club of Asokoro, and it was published and distributed to over 300 youths at RILA 2021. The district governor of District 9125, Rotary Jumoke Bamiboye, commissioned it at the event. It was really an elaborate event. And going forward, these youths were trained on the spot at RILA events, over 300 of them. They were trained on how to utilize this workbook, because the workbook doesn't just tell them about Global Peace Index and the 8 pillars of peace. It also guides them on how to identify weak pillars in their immediate environment, in their communities. And I'm so glad that these Rotary actors have gone back with this initiative and have commenced work already. It's so beautiful. Now, also the projects that we are doing has to another leg on the training and inauguration of positive peace ambassadors in Rotary clubs. This is currently ongoing. Now in District 9125 alone, like I mentioned earlier, there are over 120 clubs. And so far, I've only covered 15. So it's not really viable, both resource-wise, ramification for me to cover over 120 clubs cut across 24 states, not to talk about over 500 clubs that spreads across Nigeria. Currently, I've sent out a proposal to the 4 districts, telling them that there is need to include this curriculum in the president-elect training coming up in March, that's next month, so that these presidents will be trained. The objective at this platform, they are trained on how to remodel Rotary Club activities, so that they use the 8 pillars of peace to create their service projects, to create Rotary activities in any community of interest. So it's basically about identifying a community, and through the needs assessment in that you've carried out in that community, you identify that, okay, this community lacks in information, this community lacks in medical health care or something. So using these 8 pillars of peace, you could deliberately target and strengthen a pillar of peace in any community. So it's not a case of a wishful project for Rotary clubs. No, they have to be strategic, strengthen a pillar of peace in every project or any initiative they embark upon. And so far, these about 15 clubs and counting have accepted this ideology. They really embraced it. They've further been certified as a positive peace building Rotary club. They've nominated an ambassador in each of those clubs. The ambassadors have been decorated, and I'm in direct contact with the ambassadors to guide them on how to plan projects with the club, liaising with the board members of the club to ensure that the 8 pillars of peace is targeted in the community, the club activities as a whole in every monthly theme of Rotary goes in line with the sustainable peace building method, because that is the method of positive peace building. It has to be sustainable. So that strategy has been adopted by these 15 clubs, and more clubs are asking for it, but really it's stressful, it's time constraints, it eats up resources. So the objective is have them at President-elect's training, use that platform to train a large number of them, give out, because I usually give out a soft copy of the presentation to the ambassadors. So certify them, identify the ambassadors, give out a copy of the presentation going forward. Now, also being a national approach to the activation of positive peace, definitely partners, government needs to be involved. Some platforms need to be engaged because we don't have the facilities, nationwide facilities for training. We don't have resources to cover all that. So I'm already working with the Ministry of Youth and Sports to that regards. We'll be using their platforms, we'll be using their facilities in terms of training hall, for town hall meeting. We'll also be relying on their mobilization of youth capacity and experience. We'll be working on their departments so that we could get all persons involved, the disabilities involved, disadvantaged involved. So they already have this existing platform and reach, and we are incorporating it into the initiative for the activation of positive peace in Nigeria. We're also in talks with Women Affairs, we are in talks with Humanitarian Affairs, but also of importance is Nigerian Red Cross. Rotary has a very wide reach, acceptability, yes, but in some areas in Nigeria, I think currently Rotary clubs is not existing in like 2 states in Nigeria. There are Rotary clubs there are Rotary community clubs there are alumni there, but there are no Rotary clubs there due to some personal ideologies. At this stage, we'll be also liaising with the Nigerian Red Cross. I'm a good member of Nigerian Red Cross. So I intend to also utilize that platform to explore those states and make sure that it's a holistic approach, no state is left out. At the end of the day, the objective is activating the positive peace and enhancing the pillars of peace in Nigeria. So if you do one, you leave the other, you've really not achieved anything. And I'm of the opinion that now polio has been ended in Nigeria, kicked out in Africa. The next pet project, the next signature project, the next urgent project Africa and Rotarians in Africa must embark upon is to end conflict in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pietro. And we're all here wondering when you actually sleep, because it sounds like you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Again, if you have any links that you would like to share with the participants, feel free to put them in the chat box for everyone. And we have about 15 minutes left for some questions. So if you have any questions for any of the 3 panelists that we've just had speak today, please to put them in the question and answer box. And we will have about 10 minutes now to ask some of the questions. So I think the first question here is for Daniel, and it is from Henok, and she says, hi Daniel, or he, sorry, what a coincidence that my daughter's name is Zoe. Do you think ethnic federalism is an ideal system that could bring peace in Ethiopia?
Thank you, Hannah, for the question. I think the main thing in my presentation, as I've indicated, is the importance of a public discourse, the importance of having a conversation with those ones we don't agree with. And it is only through that civil dialogue that we'll be able to reach some kind of a common ground and common understanding into what is better and what could work for Ethiopia. So and I think that is so important, especially at times where we are facing elections soon. We should be open to the idea of having a conversation in a civil manner, respectful manner, honoring the other person as made an image of God. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now we've also got a bit of a question or a connection here for Pietro. Henok also says, congratulations for the wonderful work you are doing, Pietro. and then my club, Rotary Club of Addis Ababa Central Mela, would like to establish partnership with your club so we can learn about your peace project and adopt it to our country context through Rotary, Rotaract, Interact, and the RCC family. I think Ethiopia has a lot of similarities with Nigeria. Maybe you could just talk about how anyone here listening today could get in contact with you or in contact with your club for any potential partnerships.
Okay, I think basically I'll have to leave my email on the chat. That way it's easier, because I think that's the fastest way to go about it.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, if you could put your email in the chat then, and just when you're writing it, make sure you go, you click all panelists and attendees when you're writing, because otherwise it'll just go to us and not to everyone.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you
great,
very much.
thank you. So we do have another question here for Daniel from Kibatu. And the question is, dear Daniel, would you try to include higher members of government of Ethiopia in your work?
So if I understood it, hired members, you said?
Higher members of government.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I think the, especially the Ministry of Peace would be something that I'm really interested in, because we're talking about peace. They play a key role, I think, as part of the 8 pillars. Is actually one is good governance. So we need to engage every pillar and every person in dialogue to find that concrete solution or common ground. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Daniel. And now we have another question here from Gideon that asks, is there an active Rotary Club in Ethiopia? And that question, the answer to that is definitely yes. As you've seen, there is the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa Central Mela. There is also the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa West. So there are plenty of Rotary clubs in Ethiopia, and I'm sure outside of Addis, that you can contact and participate in. I would encourage any participants on this webinar today who are involved in a Rotary club to please maybe link that club in the chat for everyone. Or if you're part of a Rotaract club or any Rotary family of Rotarians in Ethiopia, please feel free to link your website or your Facebook page, because I think there might be a few interested participants here today that would love to get involved. So yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you for everyone who is, I'm seeing all the Rotary clubs now, so thank you for everyone who is putting in their links. Any other questions here? I'm just checking the chat. Please remember, if you have any other questions for the panelists about the projects, please feel free to ask. Remember, we do have an email address that you can contact us on, etiambassadors@economicsandpeace.org, if you have any questions. We have a question here that says we need details and clear information about the project. Absolutely. We understand that not everyone might have a clear connection here today, and that things explained on webinars are easily forgotten. So we will be sending an email. We'll be sending an email out to everyone with clear instructions and guidelines of what you need to do for your project. So thank you for that question. Yeah, of course. I'll just let Charlie take the floor now.
Thank you, Kira. There was a question earlier that was about how is it that we can connect with other IEP ambassadors and other ambassadors that have joined this session. So, and we will be sending links out to the IEP Ambassador Hub, and we encourage you to look at the IEP Ambassador Hub. And with our ambassadors who have finished the program, we encourage IEP ambassadors to register on their hub. It makes their details and contacts very accessible to other IEP ambassadors. Also, the hub is a great way to stay connected with IEP. We regularly post up presentations and slide packs on our latest launches, whether it's the Global Peace Index or the Positive Peace Report or the Global Terrorism Index. Similarly, the IEP Ambassador Facebook page is another great way to stay connected. And what we see on the IEP Facebook page is many ambassadors sharing ideas about, not ideas, sharing information about their activation around positive peace, the projects they're embarking on, presentations, events they're involved in. So it's rich with ideas from ambassadors. So there's lots of ways to stay connected with IEP and to connect with IEP ambassadors. I think we've shared with you there's some 1,600 IEP ambassadors across 106 different countries. And obviously that will grow significantly with this program in Ethiopia. When we also, when IEP is travelling in countries, we look to establish IEP ambassador events. We're hoping that we will have IEP representatives in the Ethiopia region in the coming months. So Trust and Milton from the Southern Africa office. And it is our intention to look to try and organise an event if it's possible, conscious of COVID restrictions while Trust is in the region. But we'll certainly keep you informed about that. So there's lots of ways that IEP looks to stay connected with ambassadors, and B, we look to connect you with other IEP ambassadors. I should also mention that the IEP main website, Vision of Humanity, we've talked a lot about Vision of Humanity. It is the website where we post all of our reports, and it is rich in information that you can access. But we regularly feature stories about IEP ambassadors and their projects. And in coming months, we really hope that we can feature stories about some of your projects on the IEP website, Vision of Humanity. Thank you, and I'll hand back to Kira.
Thank you, Charlie. We actually have a great question here from Mohammed, who asks, what are the challenges that you face in proceeding with the projects that you presented? Maybe we could get each of the participants here today to just give a quick answer on maybe what some of your challenges were that you faced. Maybe Absalom, we could start with you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity, Kira. The challenge is a little bit finance, and also maybe it's a little bit the platform in the network. But other than that, it's all about personal initiative. So as far as for me, I consider like as my personal initiative. I'm not looking for that much many financial aid, but I try to bring my initiative to the next level with my own idea, with the network that I know. But for as many projects, finance is the most important thing. Yeah, back to you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm sure that would, be relevant for a lot of participants here. Maybe Pietro, do you mind just giving a brief overview of any challenges that you've faced in some of your projects?
Well, in my own case, it's more of faced and is facing. It's a project that would last for years. I'm not talking about 1 year or 5 years. I'm talking about 10 years and beyond. So the challenges I'm already facing, apart from finance is a challenge you always face in projects. But the major challenge is to avoid the initiative being politicized. In Nigeria, everything is politicized. So I'm actually working on eggshells to make sure that you don't collect every gift, you don't associate with every person's, you watch the kind of interview you'd grant. So it's a very tricky challenge, which I know I really have to maneuver the muddy waters and be highly cautious, because once it has a political undertone, the aim is defeated. So you make sure that it's not everyone that says, okay, come, let me fund your project, let me fund your initiative, that you go to accept such gifts. So basically, I'm not asking for money from anybody right now. I'm asking for facilities from government. I'm not saying come and fund me. I'm saying allow us use your resources for free. Allow us use your resource persons. Allow us use your stadia, your town hall meetings. Allow us use your facilities. I'm not saying come and endorse this initiative. So it's really an eggshell, but I know that me and my team were capable of surviving it.
Great, thank you. And that's, I think, a very relevant problem, and thank you for that. Daniel, I'll hand over to you.
I think the challenge for me is really understanding that as much as I want to contribute in terms of the change, bringing peace, it's about really wrestling with my own views and with my own biased ideas I might have. And also engaging the public square also means being vulnerable to what would be coming your way from the public, being criticized and that kind of thing. So it requires that kind of really reflecting and stepping forward. So thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. So we've reached the end of our webinar. I'd like to say thank you very much to all our 3 past ambassadors for taking the time. We really appreciate it, and I hope, I'm sure it's been very helpful for our participants. Please remember, we will be sending out an email with more instructions and more information and clear guidelines on what you need to do for your project and also for your test or your evaluation. So please don't worry, you will get that information, and we will make sure that it's shared in our Facebook group and also via Telegram. So from us here, all, thank you very much for participating. It's been great having you on for the past 3 webinars, and we all look really forward to the projects that are going to come from this, and we really hope that you've been able to learn from this and that you're inspired to do a bit of creative thinking. So thank you for us, and we hope to see you again on our future webinars that are for ambassadors and networking. So again, thank you everyone, and good afternoon or good morning to you.